Hail, hail! The Celts are here, and we're back. And apologies, guys, for the kind of excommunication, lack of communication we've had, lack of content we've had over the last couple of days. A few of you would have joined us Tuesday morning, my birthday, St. Patrick's Day. I had a big session set up where we're going to be doing lots of stuff on this channel and many others throughout the day. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I tried to start the shift off here early doors at 11 o'clock, and I went 3 minutes talking, and then I genuinely couldn't talk the rest of the day. It was an absolute nightmare. But I'm fine. I'm back and all well and good. I'm sure many of you will be delighted to hear that. And I thought today we would just do a weekly catch-up show. There's a few different bits and bobs to pick up with. We can still kind of chat on the topic I had lined up for Tuesday if you want, which was Player of the Year discussion. But as of tomorrow, we'll be looking into pre-game, and we'll be getting back to business because we've got Dundee United, our last game before the international break, which is forthcoming. And once we get to tomorrow, we'll be doing pre-match, post-match, and then the international break itself is normally when we go topic heavy on the channel because there's nothing else to do, but talk about everything and anything else going forward. So I thought today it would be good to just catch up, see what's been going on over the last couple of days, and kind of chew the fat, as it were. This morning, one of the no sympathy. Don't worry about that, mate. Don't worry about that. I don't need sympathy in my ripe old age. But this morning, just to kind of get us going, this is the main thing kind of doing the rounds at the moment is the Sean Maloney UEFA licensing thing and all the rest of it. He's been kind of over there and doing that and all the rest of it. This article you can find on CeltsAreHere.com, where the quotes are here, and it kind of goes into everything that he's been speaking about, right? But the one thing I wanted to bring up with you guys, right, especially you guys that have been here on the channel for a while, a fist bump to you all if you're watching this after we've been live or if you're joining us live and loud, okay? But as many of you will remember, when Sean Maloney got appointed to this job, I'm reticent to kind of go back and talk about all this stuff again and again, right? But to be the player pathway manager, a lot of you said initially when Maloney got that gig, this is to set him up to be brought into the fold, and that's kind of what's happened in some way. I think most people are quite on board with it now, whereas maybe back then it was a bit of a different POV. But for me, I have no issue with Sean Maloney at Celtic at all. Big fan of Sean Maloney, and I think this season he's only enhanced his reputation, right? But I said at the time, and I will echo again now, to be a player pathway manager and to not do that job for 5 years would be half-baked, like if you're going to appoint someone into a role like that, it really has to have a long-term view, a long-term vision. And this is where I pick up with this today, right? Because Sean Maloney says, I gave Michael, the chief executive, and the board my word I would do the job for this season and next, and I will stick to that. Now, he only, so the agreement from the word go is he's going to do this for 2 years. That's the number one thing where I just think, again, there's just too much short-termism. Whatever you think about Sean Maloney and the structure of the club and all the rest, so we can talk about that as well, because Sean does go on to reveal, I don't know if it's explicitly kind of quoted in this article we've got here on CeltsAreHere, but he talks about the roles of the different staff at the club, what they do for training and all the rest of it. And it definitely does feel like we're often bemoaning recruitment on the channel in terms of the lack of imagination, the lack of initiative, the lack of modern day thinking, and even just being outdated in terms of valuations and negotiation tactics. But for the widespread kind of club overall, I think as fans, we can all agree that the resource management, the optimization, the fulfilling of potential at Celtic is just so far beneath its ceiling, so far beneath in every single way. And how you would want to appoint a player pathway manager. So what is their job, right? The player pathway manager, as I understand it, right, and this is maybe open to a little bit of interpretation, it maybe varies from club to club. And again, I'm always quick to point out and quick to say, in lots of these situations, you can really make the rules whatever you want. If Celtic want the player pathway manager to be involved with, and Maloney goes on to some quotes and talk about how he was visiting senior players out on loan, youth players of all levels and all the rest of it. And if that's the kind of player pathway manager that they want to have, then what they're doing is they're looking after and they're managing the careers of younger players to get them ready for the first team, right? So how old are these players that we're talking about? Now, a lot of them are going to be at the end of the teens, aren't they, for the most part? But there's going to be some that at this point in time, over this 2-season window that we've got for Sean Maloney, are maybe, I don't know, 13, 14, 15. They're maybe not quite in that radar of on the cusp of being ready for the B team, or if they were a prodigy, they could really excel and jump on really quickly. And for all intents and purposes, what that role is like the agent. If you think about what players kind of life is or whatever, you know, like they've got clubs that they play for, they move through youth systems, they sign for one club, move to another, whatever. But what's constant with them is whoever helps them manage themselves, their agent, their family, it could be a number of different people. And more in senior football, professional football, elite football, more and more these people make career choices. Now, money obviously always comes into it, but you hear it more and more that it's career based. You know, they want to find clubs where they'll fit in, where they'll get game time, where the style of play suits them. They can maybe see themselves playing for the manager, a variety of different things. And what the player pathway manager is supposed to be doing is the same thing, but in the interest of the club, not in the sole interest of the player. So for the player pathway manager, he's to look at all the players at the club's disposal and optimize the resources. You know, look at the guys who are prodigious, however you're meant to say that one. Make sure they get put into a club that's going to suit them. It's going to give them game time. That's going to, you know, be a good, you know, whatever situations for them, and help rear them, help kind of breed them up to be ready to take on B team and first team football eventually. And the routes to that can look all sorts of different ways. We've seen that at Celtic over the years. We're even seeing it right now in front of us. And I don't know how you can appoint someone to only do that for 2 years. Like, it's such it's for a position that should be a legacy type situation, you know, where it's like and again, I'm always hesitant to bring up real world stuff or whatever, right? But if you think about the manager as like the politicians that get elected in, and then like the infrastructure at the club is the people that don't get elected in, but they're always involved in stuff like the big power companies and all that kind of caper. There's a few names for them. I'm not going to say on YouTube. You can go nuts in the comment section. But that's what it should be for us, where it doesn't matter who the manager is. It doesn't really matter who the head of football is, or who the scout is, or any of that caper, because we should still have this institution, if you like, within the club that is set up to produce players, to manage the players. And if we're buying players in, like, again, I was thinking about this the other day, right? I think it might have been when I wasn't able to talk. I was thinking about Balikwisha, right? Because Balikwisha is a player that was like a prospect, a pretty good prospect. Never left Antwerp maybe when he was at the peak of his like profile, and he came to Celtic when he's been on a little bit of a down curve, recovered from injury. Antwerp are kind of minced now and all the rest of it. We pay 5 million for him. He comes here, it doesn't kick a ball. And I was thinking, this was before any of this stuff came out, right? But whoever's in charge of this stuff at Celtic right now should be looking at, how do we make money on Balikwisha somehow? Who do we loan him out to where he is going to fit in, where he's going to play? And then as I was thinking about this more and more, I then came to, I was like, the agent and the player will probably be thinking and doing all this. Celtic won't be doing this. But I was thinking, why wouldn't Celtic do that? You know, why wouldn't any club do that? Maybe some of them do. I think a lot of them probably do to some extent, especially the higher up the food chain you go. But you know, again, is that a player pathway situation where you look at this player and you go, right, okay, Sean Maloney or whoever's meant to be in that role going forward, because he's also not really in it right now. You know, who could afford his wages, who could afford a portion of his wages, who could play him, and then let's make sure we've got a meaty buy-on clause on it, or he's got a platform where somebody else could pay 6 million, then we kind of wash our hands with it and move on. So is that the sort of player pathway manager you want for 2 years, where it's somebody that just finesses the transfers, gets Shin Yamada out on loan, gets Naroki out on loan, Johnny Kenny, you know, these types of situations. Donovan was meant to go and then didn't go because of the Alistair Johnson injury. You know, that kind of thing, I could see that being a 2-year appointment. But Sean Maloney talks about, obviously, the B team, the youth players and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, he goes on to talk about how the UEFA Pro license doesn't signal that he's beckoning to go back into management and he's going to do this job next year. He's promised Michael and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It kind of annoyed me when I seen it. I was like, I promised Michael I would do it for 2 years. And it's like, you know, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? The chat's flying away, guys. Good to see you all live and loud. Fist bumps on arrival. Hit the like button if you've not done so already. we're so unserious. Yeah, that's kind of what I felt. We don't do anything with Balikwisha. We bought a dud. Yeah, well, fair enough, right? But he's not a dud. He's like a dud in Scotland. Clearly, he's a dud at Celtic or whatever it is. But and I'm only using that as an example, right? In terms of the player pathway, are you wanting the Sean Maloney, the player pathway guy, to focus on bringing the youth players through to get them their minutes at Ayr and all these other teams in the pyramid to get them ready to become the next Kobe Donovan or something like that? Or and it feels like he's doing all of this stuff, right? But or is it managing the Balikwisha situation and the Lewis Palmers of the world and all the rest of it? Afternoon, all just finished watching an interview with the CEO of Newcastle stating they have a 5-year plan, as do most clubs. Do we even have a 6-month plan? Well, I don't think so. It's hard to imagine. And again, a lot has been brought up. This probably brings me on to the next kind of topic piece, right? Is the bold Casper, right? Because this has brought up a lot of Casper Schmeichel responds. I don't think I've read this one. This is on CeltsAreHere as well. Because again, I follow, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well, tons of clubs, tons and tons and tons of clubs around the world. And they honestly, I could jump on Twitter now. How hard will it be? I can't remember what the Spanish word is for injury. But honestly, if you go onto any La Liga, Bundesliga, a lot of Premier League club Twitter pages and just scroll back, they're going to tell you when guys, they tell you the physios discharge this guy for full team training. They tell you stuff like that quite explicitly for fans, and we get told nothing like that. Casper Schmeichel goes out onto American TV to announce this stuff. And again, it is just amateur hour. There's no system, there's no protocol, there is no body there of, again, it comes back to the thing many people have been saying: interim chairman, interim manager, interim club, interim goalkeeper we had earlier this year. I guess we could maybe add him into the pile in this way. Speaking the day after the news, yeah, it was one of those things. I think I just wanted to get it out there because there has been many questions, and people keep asking. People are nice. They ask if you're all right, and I think it was just good to get it out there. People have had a great reaction. I will get back to everyone. My phone has been on fire, so yeah, people have been very, very nice. That's all well and good for you, Casper. But Celtic made to look like amateurs, I think, off the back of it. And that, again, so like in the summer, right, we'll have Sean Maloney going back to player pathway manager or even kind of hanging around in this sort of role he's in, potentially similar to when Nancy kind of came in and out, I suppose. And we're going to get a new management team in, and then Maloney's going to leave. We're going to need a new player pathway manager. We still need to replace, I guess, Paul Tisdale, for lack of a better expression, like have that overseer of the football department kind of put into place. And as we've covered extensively on the channel already, the squad has got massive, good to see you, Jay, massive reconstruction, massive surgery to be done in the summer. This is no matter how this season ends, whether we get there in spectacular glory or it all goes up in flames by the end, this is without a shadow of a doubt the biggest summer ever. And Kasper Schmeichel, he's really kind of hurt us this season by playing through this broken shoulder. And if you listen to the quote for it, honestly, it's annoyed a lot of Celtic fans, and I think quite rightly. And it's kind of felt that way for large periods where it's been like it's like the dog wagging the tail. Casper decides when he trains, he commutes from Manchester, he tells us when he's fit, and it's came back to bite him on the backside, sadly. Sadly for him, I wish him no harm, and I'm a big fan of him overall. But silence is deafening. Sorry. That's just when I had to read there for a second. Apologies there. Where was I? Sorry. But now that he's out injured for the rest, for like his Celtic career is now over at this point, it really does now open up the door. And I thought this would probably be a decent point of discussion, because I spoke about this recently, and I don't mind rehashing it now at this stage because it does feel very poignant. But Kasper Schmeichel is now going to retire. He's played his last game, which was against Hibs. Oh, wow. The game of the picture. So that was his last game. That's bad, by the way. That's bad. And it's been a rocky season for him. But last year, Make no mistake about it. Schmeichel, before that, what is the Denmark injury? Can we maybe even find it? What's this, 26? So it was like March last year against Portugal, wasn't it? These games here. So since then, he actually didn't have that bad a form beginning of the season under Brendan Rodgers when we were a bit of a clean sheet machine. You know, Kairat was 0-0 over 2 games. This early season form under Rodgers, we did have a very good, and I know some of this is Denmark as well, but we did have a very good defensive record as evidenced at the beginning of the season. But prior to those Portugal games, Casper was, for me, a big upgrade on Joe Hart in goals. And I don't mind saying that. The big green clean sheet machine for 1 season or so. But it's maybe became it's became a blessing in disguise for us as Celtic fans because, number one, Sinisalo is just more capable of being the goalkeeper for us right now. And I think now he's going to be, the Padawan is now like, so we've often called Casper and Sinisalo Padawan and Jedi. So you need to imagine where we're at right now. They've been fighting Darth Maul. Darth Maul is plugged Qui-Gon Jinn. That's obviously Casper. He is out of it. And now it's time for Obi-Wan to step up and take out Maul. Take out Maul. Take out everyone else we've got and win the title this year. So, number one, that's really good because I think we get like an upgrade in goalkeeper like for between now and end of the season because of his obvious health impairments. And we had a good viewing of Sinisalo last season when Schmeichel got injured initially. And many of you thought he should have played the cup final. And I think time will serve that opinion or show that opinion to have been correct. That's probably the way it should have went. But this is going to be very much at the coalface. So we'll get a real, I think, forming an opinion on Sinisalo at the end of this season will be very easy and quite just. I don't think you could say, oh, he's not had this or this or that. I think by the time we get to the end of the season, we'll very much know where Sinisalo's at his career, and we should have a good gauge on what his potential is, you know, from some of the glimpses, hopefully of some brilliance, and maybe not too many glimpses of madness or indecision or anything like that. But all things being equal, we cannot have going into next season, and I've just kind of set it up in a little way that it's going to be the biggest summer in club history. Training pitch, dugout, boardroom, back office, however you want to think about all these different categories. Everything has got massive upheaval coming this summer, unlike ever before. And into next season, nae harm to Ross Doohan, but we can't have our goalkeepers next year being Sinisalo, Doohan, and Clark, who I think Clark is on loan at Partick Thistle. I'm not even sure if he's still playing. I know he was playing for a bit. Let's go and check. I think they're doing all right in their league. He is. Yeah, he's playing every week. Okay. But anyway, all things being equal, that cannot be our goalkeeper department for next year, right? So when we get to the end of the year, the Obi-Wan patter is going off in the chat. Love to see it. When we go into the summer, we'll know one of two things. We'll know, number one, that Sinisalo, Martin Neal's already said he wants to be number one. I would love Sinisalo to be Celtic number one. I'm here for it. I back him. And let's see him do it. Make the gloves your own, wee man. Big man. But, so that'll either be the case. And in which case, I think we should go out and get another guy that's around the Sinisalo level. Now, this would require the board. Does the board know it's the biggest summer ever, Quinny, Brad Lad? Well, we do know that members of Celtic over time have been subscribers and big fans of the content here at CeltsAreHere, so they will probably know it by now if they haven't realised. So if we're in the Sinisalo boat, we're on the Sinisalo hype train after this year. We get there, or he does well enough. We back him. We back him. Then we need to get another guy that's around that level to come in. And it's no harm to Sinisalo, but as a club, we need to protect ourselves, right? There's a great quote, and as I am remembering it, I really wish I had it to hand. I hope I can find it. Oh, it might be in my bookmarks. I'll go and try and find. I've maybe showed it on the channel before because it is like a big favourite of mine. But anyway, the punchline when it comes is you can't mess with goalkeepers. Goalkeepers is one of these positions where You have to make sure you're nailing your colours to the mast, and it's someone that you believe in, that you trust. And I think, Sinisalo could very easily be in that category, but still at this time, a very young goalkeeper and somebody. Yeah, I'm going to need to jump onto another platform and try and find that clip. We would need to add somebody else in. Now, I've got a few suggestions for this one. The first one, this is not my suggestion, right? But as you will probably remember, in January, we were linked to Leandro Bray, the under-23 goalkeeper, the backup goalkeeper at Boca Juniors. We did a deal with Boca Juniors, of course, to sign Marcelo Sirache, and some of the rumours that came in kind of made it sound like it's the same agent, maybe try to do some work or whatever. I wouldn't really... thank you very much, Dale. Hail to you, mate. And I'm glad you're enjoying the content all the way from Australia, mate. It means a lot. Thanks a lot for dropping the comment and supporting us. It really does mean everything. And I can't say this enough, by the way. See, the other day when I hurt my tongue and I couldn't talk, it ruined my birthday. I was actually like bummed out the whole day. I really couldn't. I was honestly, it ruined my birthday. The fact that I couldn't just charge on, and St. Patrick's Day is a good day for us all. And yeah. So I'm glad to be back with you and all that good stuff. I wouldn't mind a guy like this coming in on loan from Boca Juniors. This is maybe a bit Celtic-y, quite cheap. He has been the number one in previous years, but Boca Juniors, they've actually signed quite a number of experienced goalkeepers, like older guys. I'm pretty sure the goalkeeper now is Marcusson, but before that they had the boy Romero, who was at Man United. They also had the boy Rossi, who went to Saudi, and he's now in Brazil, a very good goalkeeper, Augustin Rossi. And Bray, I think he's had moments of being in as the first, and again, he's only 22, 23. So this is when he's quite a young goalkeeper, but he's never held the position, And, if we were to loan this guy in, it would need a buy option. And anyway, that's the sort of guy I would like to see us being actively involved in if we're on the Sinisalo hype train. Now, if we're going to go into that category, this is my top candidate. I've mentioned him on the channel a few times. His name's Kosei Tani. He's 25 years of age. He has been playing first-team football in the J-League consistently since the age of 19. So he's played like 6 seasons of football. The team he's at the now, Machida Zelvia, have been in the Champions League for the last 2 or 3 years. He's won a cup. He's a Japan international, but more prominently a Japan youth international. And like this guy could be a good... Now, as we've seen with the J-League, some of them translate over, some of them don't. So I'm not going to be too over like, Tani would be the hero and he would save us and all the rest of it. He did move to Belgium and it didn't work out too well for him there in a second division Belgium team, I might add. It didn't work out too well for Dyson Maeda when he went to Portugal. It didn't really work out for Degucci when he went to... not it really worked out for Degucci at us either, right enough. But sometimes it works in a certain place, sometimes it doesn't. And even look at going to Belgium worked a lot better for him there than it did Scotland. Anyway, Tani would be very Celtic priced. We're talking about a couple of mil. Has got extensive... Can we go in? I'll just show you his actual appearance count. And I say from a very young age, he's been in the deep end. So, yeah. In 2020, bear in mind this is 2026, he's currently 25. Look how many seasons he's got on the books here. These three seasons for Shonan Belmar, they were a bottom end team fighting against relegation. They never got relegated. And look at this, still managed 9 and 10 clean sheets for them in certain seasons. Obviously, his first year when he was in the 19, 6 clean sheets in 25 is not too bad going. He was owned by Gamba Saka, who are like a big team in Japan. Never really made it in there because they've got like a 40-year-old goalkeeper who will not be dropped. And then he went to Machida Zelvia, 17 clean sheets in 37, 14 clean sheets in 37. And this season so far, 1 and 6 isn't too great. But they have been in the Champions League this year. I thought they were in the Champions League last year as well. Why did I think that? Or maybe, 25, 26. I think this is on a European calendar. This is actually 2 different Champions League campaigns, I think. So it should be 25 and 26. So anyway, 9 continental appearances, 5 clean sheets for what that's worth. It's also a totally different level. And again, Olympic goalkeeper, youth international, and all the rest of it. So a guy I'm a big fan of. I think his contract might even be up as well if we were to check him out on Transfermarkt. But that's the sort of guy I would love to see us go after. Degucci was at Leeds, yeah. Loan to buy option. We could do that for Tani. We could do that for Bray. We could do that for anyone else. Now, If Sinisalo, maybe Sinisalo doesn't completely convince, but we keep him around. Yeah. I would then look at this type of option where, again, I think the number one goalkeeper prospect outside of Europe, Matt Freese, he's going to have a big World Cup for America. I think he'll be very impressive for them. I'm a big fan of the guy. He's been at New York for a couple of years. He's very, very good. But this guy wouldn't come, I don't think, to be competition with somebody. He would only come to be a certified number one or just as good as. You can't guarantee anyone minutes, obviously, but he's 27. Just got into the America team. And I say he should have a big World Cup ahead of him. Would probably cost a good bit more than Tanny. And maybe if you're going to sell Sinisalo, because Sinisalo would be very profitable now for Celtic if he finishes the season strong with us. He's now a Finland youth international. That's a guy you could sell to Chelsea for 30 million quid. And you might laugh, but Chelsea sincerely buy these guys for crazy money all the time. Chelsea goalkeepers, like honestly, they've got thousands of them, and they all cost 20 million plus. And if that was the case, a Matt Freese would be a nice player I would quite like to see Celtic interested in. But if Sinisalo was not to be the guy, the absolute top goalkeeper I would want us to see us sign is David Soria of Getafe. He's out of contract in the summer. He plays the biggest and best teams in the world, season in, season out. He's at one of the most unattacking teams God has ever seen on his green earth. He's an absolute hero. This guy is a points-winning goalkeeper. Like, I would... Remember what I just said about Tanny? I can say the absolute opposite about this guy. I would guarantee this guy would win us matches. This guy would win us points. This guy would make a difference in Champions League, Europa League, whatever we're going to be in. I just have no doubt in my mind at all. He would have to be paid probably quite nicely. He's 32, leaving Getafe. He probably wants a nice contract. I'm sure he also wants to get some glory into his career. He is a Europa League winner, played the Europa League final and that season with Sevilla. I think it might have been the year they beat Liverpool in the final, if memory serves me right. Sinisalo also qualifies as homegrown. Yeah, Sinisalo is a very profitable asset. Like, you could... Yeah, don't rule it out. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but crazier things have happened, you know. And yeah, if we were to cash in on him, or we'd think he's not quite got it, then this would be my tippy top target. But again, that just kind of emphasizes and further highlights a little bit the thing we're looking at here on the weekly catch-up show, is that the goalkeeper thing now, I don't think there was ever a question that Schmeichel would have got a new contract after this year. I think we all kind of thought and imagined he would be retiring and certainly would be his last thing at Celtic. But it now gives us a real jump start on the goalkeeper conversation. I think, where's Casper Tobias? I don't know who that is, to be honest with you, McLaughlin. I'll put that name in and see what comes up. But we get a real audition period here for Sinisalo. And I want to see Celtic active in the market, because no matter how you cut it, is it Legia Warsaw, the name you've gave me? He's 23 years of age. And this will only be in the Conference League and such, in internationals. So this was a DNP against Lincoln Red Imps, December 25. This is Conference League football, maybe got injured or something. Yeah, he plays Conference League, hasn't always played for his country, which is Poland, but he's been getting in the squads. A clean sheet against Chelsea, so they're probably interested in him. Yeah, he looks all right on paper. Like, we need to see how he actually performs. But I think a goalkeeper is a guy you really need to eye test. Stats is nowhere near enough. But this looks okay. This looks interesting enough to look into deeper. Casper Tobias. I don't think Sinisalo was the answer. His decision to pass to Hatate in the Motherwell game was poor. I would agree with that, Big Rab, but I think, Big Rab, surely like now at this point, you can see, like, Yang is a great example right now. And we were going to I was going to chat about him tongue-in-cheek for the Player of the Year discussion, right? Because he's not going to be Player of the Year, right? But he's breakout Player of the Year in a big way. And I think what you can see now with Yang is those things that used to pee every Celtic fan off about him a year ago or so. Dribbles by three guys and goes out for a throw-in or a goal kick, or has a sitter and doesn't convert it, or gives away stupid free kicks. All those mistakes, we've invested that time in him. And now, finally, whatever the catalyst is maybe up for conversation. A lot of that is gone. So, yeah, I kind of get that there's still a bit of that rookie error, to use the Ben Arthur expression again. with Sinisalo, but I don't think that's a permanent feature. I don't think you can look at him and go, oh, he makes mistakes playing out from the back. I think you've got to live through some of these experiences, and maybe that's one he should know better with. Fine, maybe that's an indicator to you still. I could get that. But yeah, I don't think I'm basing him on that just yet. I think there's a lot of improvement. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think you need to, and again, it's the way I've kind of spoke about the Dane Murray JSP and then Dane Murray Ben Arthur. Same thing. If we're going to keep Sinisalo, you need to have someone else to jostle for position with him to push the levels to try and maximize and unlock all the potential he could have there. It's not going to be Ross Doohan and Josh Clark, with all due respect to them. You need someone where Sinisalo sees them arriving, sees their shirt going up on the peg for training, and he thinks, I need to be better than this guy. Adamu, Dale, great point. And he was my guy that I thought, out of all the signings, was the guy that had something to offer. And I've really got no Scooby-Doo clue. Iheanacho made the bench ahead of him for Motherwell. It really, Iheanacho on the bench. No Adamu. I'm speechless. Absolutely confused, because he was he had a bit of an injury, I suppose, as he's coming out of Germany. But he was playing regularly enough. If we got an actual broken player in, is that maybe part of it? Rory, I would have signed Martin Boyle in January. I wouldn't take him in the summer. But I would have signed Martin Boyle in January over maybe Adamu and Schmeichel. I'd have just bought. We were chatting about domestic guys who just win the league. And I'd have taken Martin Boyle over Bowie. Although Bowie, by the way, it's been all right in Italy. Won a penalty, scored a goal. Been a handful for defences since he showed up. And Johnny Kenny, by the way, again, I was chatting about this weeks ago. I say weeks as if it's ages, but I mean 2 weeks ago or so. Were we really better off letting the guy go? It was after, so 28th of February was when I was speaking about this with you guys. We were looking at it. Johnny Kenny was getting into positions and finishing. He got 2 assists in 45 minutes 2 weeks ago. Or no, at the weekend there. Strikers are fickle. You need guys that are absolutely scoring goals. Before the Motherwell game, Adamu, Mvuka and Balakwisha were out doing runs before the team came out to warm up. Oh yeah, actually, I heard someone talking about that, Michael. Like a kind of fitness test thing. It's maybe between the three of them. Like whoever does best, you're getting in the squad. And it was Nacho, and obviously didn't even get off the bench. So a bit of a booby prize, bit of a wooden spoon element there, runner-up medals and all that caper. I'm not really sure what Adamu really brings to the team. Don't know what is going on with Iheanacho, but he's our best striker. Iheanacho is definitely shown to be the best finisher since he's been at the club. No two ways about it. But with Adamu, I thought you really seen a good showing of him against Stuttgart. It was gangly, it was mobile, it was kind of in faces. He didn't really, he had McKeown to playing with, and it wasn't like I don't say that as a slight towards McKeown, but it's more like, it's not as if, and we've made this point before, with guys that come off the bench, but when they're coming off the bench, they're playing with the second string, or they're playing with the other guys off the bench, and they're not playing with the best 11. Nobody's really playing with the best 11 now because of injuries, obviously, right? So I accept that also. But yeah, I don't know. I guess against Rangers, he was just absent, wasn't he? Did diddly haw. 3 passes, won a duel, lost 6 against Suter. And did they start Jigga against us? I forget. Fernandez and Sterling. Yeah, for the English market we're talking about. Like English teams seeing him as being valuable. Irish man in Porto 2002. That was the context. I actually think the blindside press from Motherwell was class to win the ball off Rio. It was good. I think if you look at the breakdown, but like Hatate clocks him. Hatate knows the press is coming. Sinisalo sees it. So it is like a blindside thing, but people knew he was there. And that's a great question as well. Do the strikers even get the service to shine? There's an argument to say that they don't. Although, chance creation has kind of went up. What's your top 2 picks for striker then? This is obviously dependent on our new manager. Oh. So, I think, as we've experienced... Oh, 2 seconds. Oh, yeah, sure. Just got a message from the old ball and chain. I need to do something. The striker, to be honest with you, like, we need to buy a guy up. I mean, to buy a striker that's like 8 to 10 million quid. And the 8 to 10 million striker we can buy, that's very. Let's see right now. Goalkeepers, I don't like, as we just spoke about there. I think any of the goalkeepers I just mentioned, you could open dialogue with, begin negotiations with around signing them for next year. I wouldn't really have any reason to believe otherwise, given all their individual situations. But with high value strikers, match winners, up and coming prospects, you need to know if you're in Champions League or not. Now, you don't need to know that you've qualified the way Celtic like to act, I believe. I think even just getting into the qualifiers and saying we're spending 40 million quid, you're one of the guys, we're going to go and bring in these other 3 guys, we're going to bulldoze our way to the competition. That would be enough. So I think just even knowing that you're qualified for. So I think it's hard to say, because if you're in the Champions League, you know, I was a big fan, and I mentioned him on the channel about a year ago. He's went to one of my favourite clubs, Getafe, and he's hit the ground running in a big way. His name's Martin Satriano. I became aware of this guy a few years ago. He was on loan at another team in France from Inter Milan. And then I wanted us to buy him, but he went to Lens or something, and then he ended up at Lyon, and now he's at Getafe. And since he's been in Spain, if we can just change this to La Liga, he's doing very well. Again, a very unattacking team, but this is a power forward. This guy does everything that you want him to do, believe me. And if we were in the Champions League, we could buy a guy like this from Lyon for 10, 12 million quid. Maybe a bigger team gets him, maybe we don't get him. But if we're in the Champions League, I could imagine us trying to buy a guy like this. But if we are not, then I don't think you could see Celtic sign a guy like this. You're probably more looking at the kind of category of strikers we have been in, those cast-offs from the big leagues that still have something that they want to prove. Again, the guys like Adamu and Shvanchara on name and profile are the sort of guys I think you would be there for. And if you're in Conference League, which we can't rule out at this stage, right? But let's not think about it for too long. But if we're in the Conference League, yeah, you're maybe just raiding Motherwell. Just is more of a winger, isn't he? Would Ida have been any worse than what we have? It's hard to say would be, because Ida was I don't know, like Ida was just, for me, just a bit too one-dimensional. Just a bit too sensitive. And he's injured anyway, so the way I believe by injuries, he's injured at Swansea, he would have been injured here. I don't think there's any like, oh, he went to Swansea and got injured. I think it depends what it is. If somebody snapped him knee high and broke him, but if it's like a muscle or a tendon thing, it would have happened here. I think that's the way I believe. It's hard to know these things, butterfly effects and sliding doors and all that. Don't get me wrong. If we're in the Conference League, then yeah, we'll probably have Kenny. Yeah, we'll have Kenny and Osmond. Of course, Osmond, I keep forgetting. Yeah, if we're in the Conference League, man, we will be spending the minimum we possibly can. Just I would very much like, but he's a winger in my book. And yeah, if we can get Osmond back in, Martin O'Neill was getting a bit of a tune out of him as well. So yeah, Schmeichel, goalkeeper options, and Maloney were the main things I had on the weekly catch-up segment here. And I'm into a wee bit of just what you guys are up to talking about a little bit, because we've kind of spoke on everything here on the club, from the backroom staff, the manager, players, who's picking the players, and obviously we all know about the stuff in the boardroom. There's a lot of rumours going around the end of season. It's probably why you're not hearing as much from Michael Nicholson, that there will be some sort of reshuffling of the pack. Brian Wilson won't be chairman for too much longer, you'd like to think. There's some sort of plan underway to fill that position on a permanent basis. And you know, with great change comes a great opportunity. And again, when we've had these opportunities in the past, when Rangers went bust, when Rangers returned, when we had Brendan, even like 2 seasons ago or 1 season ago when the Champions League format changed to our benefit, I would say, we've really dropped the ball. We've been really backward. We've been really hesitant. We've not taken any initiative. And I fear where this could be a great rebirth of a summer, change 1 or 2 people upstairs, hire 1 person into the back office, get the new manager in, and then spend, like, because again, we're going to make so much money in the summer, I believe, with some of the outgoings that are likely, if not a guarantee, to happen. They spend an absolute war chest. We could be totally reimagined. We could win the league, be in the Champions League qualifier, spend 15, 20 million quid before a qualifier, a ball is kicked, spend the rest of it when we get to the proper tournament like we expect we would. And then all this can be a distant memory. It could be a fever dream. That could happen. But it's probably not. I would sign Oxlade on another year deal if he continues to like shake the rust off. And by the end of the season, he can be a first, like we look at him and go, he should start. In that case, I would sign him. If he doesn't get to that point, I'd be hesitant to commit wages to him. The future is pitch black for me. Yeah, that's the realization I get to when thinking about this as well, is we are going to replace one tube for another in terms of like whoever's picking the players and all that caper and whoever's running the show. We're going to hire Robbie Keane, Askew, and then we're going to sign 3 guys from Motherwell, get 3 guys in on loan, and then get 2 or 3 rejects from across European football, and off we go into the Europa League. Hearts will strengthen further. Rangers will strengthen further. Who knows what Hibs and Motherwell will do as well, depending on where Askew is. I have optimism that the potential is there, Paul. I'm not sure if I have optimism on that becoming reality, though. But I'd have this, like, everything that's just went wrong for the last 20 years could, and again, I've seen this to Paul John. I forget if it was on camera or off camera, but see, like let's get CeltsAreHere off screen, right? We as Celtic fans, right, have a unifying displeasure with the hierarchy of the club, and really how they've been running the club for the last 5 years. I think everyone would agree on, and I think the majority of people could open the scope of that to agree that the managing of the club to lead us to this point has been, writings have been on the wall. A lot of people have seen it coming, and the poor management of the club probably goes back to post Martin O'Neill. Maybe Martin O'Neill was maybe even the genesis of some of the issues that we had to wrestle with, that then brought in a lot of the habits in the club, the frugal nature and the fear of overspending that we're now victims of today. And again, I think if you think about all of that, we're all in agreement of it, right? But I'm telling you, and I might be wrong for thinking this, you might want to shoot me down, right? But I think Michael Nicholson, maybe not quite Chris Mackay, because he seems to have a bit of a personality issue from whenever I've heard anyone that's met him personally, even internally at Celtic, never mind like fan people or anything like that, external fans or anything like that. So maybe not Chris Mackay, right? But Michael Nicholson, and probably every other name that you want to think, except for maybe the dodgy copper guy that people don't like, Hopkins or whatever his name is. Again, I don't really know the ins and outs of it all. But they could totally, Dermot Desmond included, I would, no, maybe not. But if we did have that real optimism, what I just shared a moment ago, if we really did go for it and go out with the old, in with the new, what happened yesterday, spilled milk, and let's move forward. New manager, new this guy, new that guy. There's all that money. We've just sold all those players. There's even more money. Here's that piece. Go and fix all the problems. We go and buy like 8 guys. We get a marquee signing in there. Some exciting prospects. Some of the guys that we know we need in the team. And then if we went on a little period of, again, jump back on the content a year ago when we were in the Champions League proper, I was saying Celtic, if we could be into that playoff round that we got to 3 out of 5, 4 out of 6 seasons, jump forward that period of time, we will transform. We will grow up because of the money involved, and then our scale, our perception in the market, the football landscape would be totally different, yada yada. And in this month or this summer, if we were to kick that thing back into gear with the little blip that we've had this year. So let's imagine we got into the Champions League and we got 10 matches. We played the 8 group stages and got the playoffs. That would be 2 out of 3 seasons that we did that. Now, we actually played 10 Europa League games this year, which it's been a horrible year for Europe, right? But it could be a silver lining if that was the worst year we have, if we then went on next season and even the season after being in the Champions League and getting to those group stages and those playoffs, where you could look back, and I think so many people could rewrite their legacy at Celtic if they really kicked on in this time. But I don't think that'll happen. I just don't think it's realistic. Who would you be your ideal director of football? I would look. It's hard to know all the guys in world football that do that job and like, oh, this guy would be perfect for us and all the rest of it. But I think you really do want an Edin Terzic, a Ralph Rangnick. You want a guy that's been at the elite end of the game and a similar capacity that wants to really build a club out from scratch, because there's a lot of heavy lifting to be done at Celtic right now with all the stuff that we're talking about. Youth development, producing our own players, never mind all this lofty ambition stuff I'm talking about. Big question that's facing Celtic fans from the Business of Sport on YouTube just covered. Oh, really? I think I think that was on my suggested list. I'll catch that out if you think it was a good listen, Doctor. Dermot Desmond's mustache is a weapon of mass destruction. Yeah. So I'm quite in agreement with a lot of the stuff in the chat. It was nice seeing Bodo doing a Celtic the other night, yeah, and getting humped at the end. Yeah. Well, it's go out with a bang, isn't it? You know. Yeah, Rangnick's a name that comes up in the chat a lot. I think you want a guy like that that's been in that position. He's built a national team. He's built Red Bull for a large part of their early formation, their early formative years at Salzburg and then Leipzig. And even with his small, although unsuccessful stint in Man United, he's had that Premier League exposure where he kind of knows what that top bit is all about. When's your video for next manager? That's probably a good shout, by the way. I'll put that in the notes. Next manager. So we've got an international break coming up. So yeah, we'll probably drop it then. Our board levels will be John McGlynn and Askew. Yeah. Could have near 22 players leaving. Yeah, Alex, I don't know if you've seen that video on the channel where we actually went through it in proper detail. Let me go and see live on the live here. But we did this the other day where we were really through it. So many unknowns. No, not that. Topic Tuesday. May have been that. Transfers and tactics. It was this one. So if you catch this stream from 12 days ago, I go through all of that. Like really, like we expect Engels to go, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Do you watch the Irish League? No, I don't. I don't. I would be semi up for it. I'm just trying to catch up with some of the chat here. You guys should be thanking Desmond. What an ungrateful bunch. So, Jimmy Snooker, the Wilfred Nancy picture. You're definitely a troll just because of your name and image, right? I know that for a fact, right? Now, I don't mind giving Dermot Desmond some flowers where they're due. There's not many of them, right? But Martin O'Neill did leave the club in a pretty bad financial state. And to then have the Gordon Strachan era off the back of that, we did buy Gravison from Real Madrid. We did sign Donati from AC Milan. We did buy Jan Vennegoor of Hesselink from PSV. We did do some stuff for a minute. Even under Neil Lennon and under Brendan Rodgers, there was moments, there was periods where you were like, all right, this is what we're after. But it's too part-time and it's not coherent. And ultimately, it's like that toxic relationship where it's a friend or a partner or whatever, and they are a nightmare. Or they're terrible to be with, or they're whatever it is, the negative thing, 90% of the time, but there's that 10% where everything's fit. It's that situation, Jimmy Snooker. I don't think you can, because of one good thing, excuse all the ills and all the sins. Free Snooker. And again, this is a big point I wanted to bring up, right? is Dermot Desmond. I didn't even plan on doing it here, right? But Dermot Desmond, and a lot of people say this, right? But just to make it absolutely clear, Dermot Desmond has not spent any money on Celtic, right? So see when you're listening to like the big football teams that are going on, Man City, Chelsea, don't want to put them in the big category, right? But even look at Rangers and Hearts, right? We've heard the statistic going around. The only team in Europe or in the UK, I forget which it is, that has more money in the bank than Celtic is Tottenham, right? Football clubs generally don't have cash reserves because it's like it's just bad practice. It's just bad capital management, bad resource management. They speculate to accumulate. They turn small values into bigger values, either by the team qualifying and winning stuff or by players progressing and getting sold up the market, etc. And the majority of times when clubs, if not every time, when clubs are going to undertake that recruitment drive, the club or the owners pay up the money in advance to give the club some liquidity, to get some motion in the ocean, and then the club directors loans and all these mechanisms, all these financial instruments are in place, and that's why you see FSR, financial sustainability rules, PSR rules, because it's like, oh, this was a director's loan and this was a backhanded payment. There's all these financial instruments that are going around that people use, and a lot of them are lawful and are fair game, and some of them aren't for obvious reasons, but there's lots that are. And Dermot Desmond, nobody has put any money into Celtic. Everything that's been funded at Celtic has been by Celtic fans that buy season tickets, that buy merch, the TV deals, UEFA and whatever it's Sky. That's where all the money comes from. So even though we should thank Desmond for some things here and there, which I'm not like against, bringing in Rodgers and a few of he's had some good stuff, but it's he's not really done much, really. If you're going to be fair and equal about it, the guys that I keep bringing this up. I remember the day he came into Celtic. I was in high school. I was a lot younger. I forget what age. I remember thinking, "Wow, an Irish billionaire is going to own Celtic. We're going to have our own Roman Abramovich," and it's just been like, not that we want that or not that that's what's expected, right? But we've got 80 million quid in the bank and probably about 50 million quid in transfers. I think that in that video I referenced, we did a poll and you guys voted on how much money you think we would get for all those players that were going to go out. I forget what it was. Let's say it was 40 million. It might have been 50. We're going to get that coming in the summer. So, like, the club is self-sustaining beyond belief, It's not even as if it's like, oh, Dermot Desmond, get us out this problem. Spend your money. SOS. It's like, nah. All the fans' money is already in the club. Even spend that. And Ian McIntosh, don't bring up the Muscat thing to me again. Honestly, like Muscat, every time I hear this name getting brought up, he might be good and fine, right? He might move into Europe and be a good manager. But Muscat is, for me, the thing I've learned with the Wilfred Nancy situation, right, is the reason that Ange worked is Ange had a lifetime of experience. That was the main difference. I don't think quality of league. I don't think style of football. I don't think ability of Celtic players at his disposal upon arrival. Even the current league situation, Ange had a pre-season, Nancy. I don't think any of these things are as big a factor as Ange had a lifetime of experience before coming to Celtic. He won the Asian Cup with Australia, which is a pretty big achievement, by the way. Never mind the stuff he did with, his Australian club before moving to Japan. And the China League. If you guys are thinking Wilfred Nancy should, and again, I've heard people saying this, and I am very steadfast in reminding everyone that Nancy was a very worthy candidate of being interviewed for the job. Make no mistake about it. But if a lot of people want to retcon that and retrospectively say Nancy should never have been interviewed or Nancy this or Nancy that, to then talk about a guy from the Chinese Super League is beyond hypocritical. It's mental. So, I don't think Nancy is a myth, to be honest with you. I just think it was too soon for him. I think that's clearly the problem, is he was just too inexperienced for the job. Despite winning a title and despite having a nice style of play and a nice career track record to that point, he was too inexperienced. That, for me, that is what it boils down to. You can make it on change the team too early or try to sack Stevie Woods, or it boils down to inexperience. And what's it inexperience of? Is it winning a title and all that stuff? No, it's inexperience of the big club mentality. It's inexperience of the big club cojones, what it takes. The thing that Martin O'Neill has inherently in him, no matter how old he is, that makes him suitable to do this right now, where Wilfred Nancy and many others would not be able to do what he's doing right now. Not that he's getting fantastic football out of the team or anything, but a big factor of being a successful Celtic manager, Man United, Liverpool, Benfica, Marseille, big clubs with big fan bases, whoever you want to think of, is there's a big club cojones, a big club mentality thing that comes into that. And you maybe don't always, like Strachan didn't have that as a manager, maybe had that as a player or whatever. But again, even somebody like Strachan had a lifetime of experience before coming into the job. Fair enough, a lot of that was maybe as a player versus being as a manager. And maybe Muscat has a bit of a playing credentials as well, right? With Millwall, and I don't know who even else he played for, Rangers for 2 minutes, as everyone says. But Muscat, honestly, like if you were not happy with Nancy and you're talking about Muscat, you are crazy. Our league is good. Absolutely no right to disrespect other leagues. Our league is good. And I think our league is getting better, but I think our league is mainly suffered from a self-defecation point of view. Scottish people want to defecate on the Scottish game at every turn. And I think, again, I've kind of had it on the drawing board for about a year and I've not moved it on yet, but I think Scottish football could really reinvent itself very quickly and be a better league. I know it's became a better league anyway because of just some individuals doing better like clubs, but produce better players, be a better thing for the Scottish people than what it currently is in so many different ways. But I think our league, the thing it's got going for it is like the last place where there's like old school football happening. Maybe we don't quite want the old school bad biased refs, right? But in terms of the style of play, the pitches, the stadiums, the fan culture, it's throwback, you know? And I think we should embrace that a lot more. It is what it is. It's never going to be Spanish football or Italian football, but it's Scottish football. It's, yeah, we're going to smash someday. Aye, there's going to be a few balls in the air. Aye, the refs are terrible. Maybe we don't want them, like I say, as terrible as they are now. But yeah, I think, yeah, we need to do better at respecting our own game, I think. The NEC manager, like, so NEC, I don't know much about the guy. I would need to look into him more, but NEC in Holland are like off the charts right now for how attacking football they're playing. I think they've made it to the Dutch Cup final. They've got some okay players in their ranks, it must be said. I like their defenders. They've got a lot of nice defenders, despite their attack being so prolific. But yeah, maybe somebody to look. But again, like, it's inexperience. I want a guy that's been at a big club or been, like, again, I said this on Axel on Monday, but I think Robbie Keane's Ferencváros run gives him a lot more credibility to be Celtic manager than being a Hungarian and Israeli champion, because I just don't think those titles, it's nice, but, and Robbie Keane's maybe got a bit of the playing thing, and I know he's very divisive. I'm not trying to bring that up as a real topic point here, Robbie Keane, yay or nay, because I know he'll split opinion. I really do think if he was to become Celtic manager, it's a big gamble to do in this summer. Ideally, you'd want him to have one more job where he goes to like Genk or, I don't know, AZ, you know, a team that's like a good team in like a better league than Hungary, that's in Europe, needs to play with better players. And if he was to overachieve in that capacity, then I think he'd be a shoe-in as a good Celtic manager on paper. And take of that as you will, personal opinions about Robbie Keane to one side. We're chatting about what it takes, what the minerals are. I think experience, big game mentality, big club cojones is something. Robbie Keane maybe has a bit of that. You maybe get a bit of that from him as a player, doesn't take any crap and all the rest of it. Marcelo Gallardo would be great, but again, moving a guy from where even is Gallardo right now? Because I know he went back to River, but Coudé, big fan of Coudé. I'd have liked him to have been Celtic manager, but he's went back to River. Coudé is a bit. Oh, my camera's melted, guys. It's very, very hot in here today. I may just throw the backup camera on. Apologies there, guys. It's hot today. The sun is out, by the way. Spring is upon us. Can I fix the angle on this? No, let's fix it that way. There we go. Gallardo's back at... No, I could have swore they just hired Edward Coody. Oh, Felipe Luis. Oh, hoopsaholic. Oh, that is sorry, I'm dog sitting. I hit the desk there. That is a top shout, by the way. Felipe Luis. Now, he's probably been half lined up for the Chelsea job, but if you can get to him first and then you give him a big release clause, because you know Chelsea will pay that crap because they'll sack a manager in a minute. Oh, hoopsaholic. That is a great shout, by the way. Felipe Luis, that would be a great appointment. That's a guy you could give money to. I agree. Very little chance of it. But I think if you moved quickly and you're like, well, listen, mate, we've got money. We've got money. Don't worry about that. We'll give you it. We'll get your European profile up and going. You'll be here a season or two. You help us, we help you. I can get behind that. Taps half indeed. It will be a lot better, Paul. Thank you very much. I kind of mentioned that at the top of the stream. I won't repeat it because it'll just bore people. Top of the table, but poor in what sense, Ian? Yeah, it's not La Liga. It's not some of these types of football. It's, you know, each to their own. You know, I think it's embrace what it is rather than ridicule it for what it's not. What the minerals are, who you are as a man is 100% the question with Robbie. Oh, fair enough, Liam. I get you connecting the dots in that sense. Fair enough. Fine. I'm not going to argue with that. You could end up a Spurs manager. Yeah. I'm not sure. By the way, in Igor Tudor, who is a Spurs manager, again, a lot of you guys will know, I'm a big fan of. I would have loved to have been Celtic manager, but I don't think we could have afforded him. Depending on how it goes with Spurs, I would still be super open to Tudor. I'm a big fan of him. And maybe he needs that kind of Celtic step to kind of get back in with the English media again a little bit. He had a good performance last night against Atleti. It was quite. I watched Atleti Spurs last night. I thought they did quite well. Played Tudor ball quite well. You're right. I guess some stuff right, don't I, Doctor? Coody. And Coody, so I'm a fan of that guy because he plays like 3 CMs and a CDM, and he's got a really interesting midfield. He did in Spain anyway with Alaves and Celta Vigo. Did well without excelling, but I like his style. I like his cut of his jib as a manager. I expect him to do well at River. Yeah, that's a good question, Liam. Is it a manager or a head coach? I think it's a head coach, by the way. I think it's Jens Bertalascu or Kieran McKenna, head coach. And as Sean Maloney was talking about, McManus and Strachan and maybe somebody else they bring in run the training, all the doggies work, again, people hear that and they're like, oh, these guys are running training. What McManus and Strachan are doing is the warm-ups, the one-way drills, the two-way drills, the very much the painting by numbers, I don't want to say automated, but the stable diet training patterns that the club will run on a Monday, Tuesday, match day -1, whatever. They run all of that. Maloney and O'Neill come in to kind of firm things up. So I think that's what you're wanting the head coach to do, firm things up before the match. Fotheringham apparently is kind of like the glue between it all, maybe a bit of off the ball in the player's ear and maybe some fitness stuff or whatever. But I think that structure, Celtic are quite happy with that right now. They're going to keep Maloney in situ. They're going to probably keep McManus and Strachan in situ. And subsequently, they want to hire as little people as possible. So head coach for me, Liam, is what I think. I think Keane has the potential to be a good Celtic manager. And I say the same thing about Roberto Martinez, who I am not a fan of. I am very much on record as saying has failed up his entire career. But I think these people would do well at Celtic, win the SPFL, could win some games in Europe. That's kind of the remit. And yeah, I kind of ran on in the morning, so I think some of these might be diving off, which is fine. I don't mind. I'm pretty much towards the end anyway. So yeah, I think I can love these and leave these at this point. Gallardo is out of work. Needs the question asked. Yeah, I think so too. I think the thing though, with Latin Americans and stuff like that, I just don't know if we've had much success. I suppose Sriracha's maybe woken people up to the possibility of it. But that's the sort of appointment we want. A big cojones manager. You know, Marcelo Gallardo would be nice. I like the thought of some of the other guys that are out of contract in the summer. I'd like a left field appointment, to be honest. Now, I think with left field appointments, it doesn't need to be a Wilfred Nancy. It doesn't need to be a Kevin Muscat. It could be a Gallardo. It could be a Felipe Luis. Those guys would be like ambitious left field appointments. They would be much. And Felipe Luis does not have the experience I was harping on about before, right? But where Felipe Luis has just won his stuff is Flamengo, which is the biggest club in Brazil. Many argue the biggest club in South America. So I think his experience he's had there is he would have a fair crack at Celtic, I would believe. Absolutely no to Roberto Martinez, and especially Bellamy. Yeah, again, I'm not too high on the Bellamy train. I get why he's a candidate, and I'm not a fan of Roberto Martinez, but I believe Roberto Martinez would probably win titles at Celtic, would probably sign good players, and then would probably get sick of him and sack him. But I think he would do well for a time. I can respect him enough to say that. Yeah, I need a set piece coach as well. Maloney will be the next manager. The board love him, says Jimmy Snooker. I wouldn't rule that out. Would not rule that out. And again, talking about all the stuff that's going on, we hired that guy, James Bell Walker. And we were chatting about this when it happened, right? But again, I was chatting to one of my mates, texted me this morning or last night, and he said, what did he say? He said, he's a Celtic fan, he lives in America. He's not up on things as closely as like, oh, you guys probably are or whatever. And he said, he's messaged me, this morning. Do we even have a recruitment team, by the way? Just like, he must have been on his way to work or on his way home or something, just had a wee thought. And I said, no, we've hired a scout from Chelsea called James Bell Walker. He's on LinkedIn posting about completing negotiation courses. So again, who's going to be doing the deals for us in the summer? Who's picking the players? Who's negotiating the deals? Who's got the ambition? Who's got the cojones to go and approach Gallardo to even, and again, with players right now, like I mentioned, if we're not in Champions League, it is difficult. I get that. And I think you do need to know where we're going to be at before you can find out who the marquee signings will be. But I do think a lot of potential prospect signings you could start to work on that stuff at the moment. We have been live and loud, guys, for a fair length of time, about an hour. Yeah. So I'm quite glad. I think we've got up to speed with the catch up. I'm realizing the time as well. Don't think a World Cup manager is coming this season. Who's at the World Cup? Yeah, I don't think young managers for Celtic. I think if you're taking a young manager, it needs to be somebody that's like, like there's nothing wrong with Julian Nagelsmann, right? He's never going to be the Celtic manager, right? But I'm not really that worried about the age part. If like Felipe Luis, there's like experience there. Who's got the actual connections, the actual networks? I don't think anyone, by the way. I don't think anyone. I would argue potentially I have a bigger network. Like I know people, some of you guys will know them too. I know people that are right in with all sorts of clubs and leagues, like genuinely right in. Oh, Ranick's at the Austria World Cup, of course, yeah. Cheers, Liam. Maybe one day. I'm going to try and get my ass in gear. I do need to try and I want to get back into actual football, like working in it. I want to try and do something. Maybe pick that up another day. I don't think Braga comes to us, to be honest with you. I don't think Heartsale does. I think we're going to buy a lot of guys from Motherwell and the likes. But anyway, I've kind of run out of stuff to talk about, and it always feels like a good point to end the video, especially since my camera's already melted for how hot it is in here. I need to go and get a big cold glass of water. I'll be live on my own channels later today. If you follow me for any of that stuff, stay tuned for more. Reapplying this summer. Yeah, well, it might be a bit of a content as well, by the way. You think we'll sign Robertson and then Steve Clark? Wow, that's a double thought, Hugh. Again, I'll maybe say this as a Levy is right. If we're going to do a head coach situation, I like Steve Clark. I think Steve Clark's a good coach. I think he's a good manager. Club football is totally different to international football. I think he's a fantastic Scotland manager. I really don't want him to leave the Scotland job. I, however, could imagine a world that Steve Clark is Celtic manager for 3 years and achieves some pretty incredible stuff. Because, again, talking about Ange and lifetime of experience, Steve Clark has 2 lifetimes of experience at this point. as a player, as an assistant manager, as a manager, as a national team boss. Don't underestimate Steve Clarke is what I would say. I'm not jumping for him to get the job or be interviewed or whatever, right? But I wouldn't be negative on him at all, you know. I might need to stick to YouTube. Which I don't mind and I love, as I mentioned to you before, right? But I do get that itch. I do have that hunger to like get my hands dirty, you know. He is divisive, Jimmy Snuka. Maybe it means a few people are Maggie Thatcher, but the Kelly achievement, by the way, is pretty formidable. And that's all I'll say. I'm not negative on Clarke. I think he deserves a bucket of respect. I really don't want him to leave as being Scotland manager. I genuinely don't think anyone could do it better than him. But if he became Celtic manager, I could easily imagine it being a successful period for all involved. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow for pre-match previews. Hail, hail, and Moon the Hoops.